Hey y'all, it's Maddie. Welcome back to my channel, and today I'm going to sit down and do a compare contrast, kind of like I did with multiple daily injections versus using an insulin pump. Today I'm going to be sharing the compares and the contrasts, the pros, the cons a little bit, the differences between using a continuous glucose monitor or a CGM or some sort of monitor device versus using regular old fancy smancy finger sticks. They're very much different, and I've used both for quite some time now, both together, and I've also used both separately, and I just kind of wanted to share this. So I did full-blown finger sticks for about 4 months before I got on a continuous glucose monitor. I would have gotten on one early, however, because it was during my honeymoon phase is when they were going to put me on one, which I thought would have been like super important. You had to be like, for the insurance to cover it, you had to be like on 3 or more injections a day, and I was only down to 1 injection. And then when I got back on injections fully after my pancreas died, I could get back on one of these. And now that I don't run mine through the insurance company, I buy mine outright. It does now not matter how many injections or how little pump site changes I do, because I buy it outright. But anyways, I'm going to go ahead and sit down and compare these two. But before I begin that, I want to say thank you for 400 subscribers. Must have happened sometime when I was sleeping today. I woke up and it was 401, and now we're at like 404 now, which is absolutely incredible to me how fast my channel has grown in less than a year. And I love you all from the bottom of my heart. Thank you for tuning into me. Thank you for giving me the support, and thank you for giving me good feedback. And I hope these videos are inspiring and educational, coming from somebody like myself who absolutely loves delving into the scientific side of living with a chronic autoimmune disease like type 1 diabetes. So with that being said, let's jump into the comparing. So CGM versus finger prick. CGM stands for continuous glucose monitor, and finger sticks is just all what it is. It's just simply a test strips, a meter, and something to take a blood sample with to check your blood sugar with. So both of these devices can regularly check blood glucose levels. These can check blood glucose levels at any time that you need them. When you have a continuous glucose monitor, you have a receiver, which allows you to see like, hey, where's my blood sugar at now? It can be either a phone or the actual receiver, like on the Dexcom. My blood sugar right now is 113, which is somewhere around 6.3 millimoles per liter. As a matter of fact, I switched my SugarMate readings over here so that when I show you guys my data, that you can see that those of you that use millimoles know exactly what 113 milligrams per deciliter converts to in millimoles. So that's that conversion, 6.3 millimoles. Right now, that is my current blood sugar. Whereas with a finger prick, you need your meter, test strips, and a lancing device. You need 3 main components to get a blood sample and test your blood sugar level. So I'm going to go right ahead and go like head to head like I always do, like say the one side of the CGM versus finger sticks. So first thing I can think of with the continuous glucose monitors, they're always going to be more expensive. Again, it can depend on what kind you own, but I know outright for the Dexcom G6, I pay $318 per box of sensors because my insurance does not cover it. I'm considered underinsured because my insurance does not cover the monitor. However, oddly enough, it covers an insulin pump at a reasonable price. So everybody's insurance is going to be different, but if you meet the deductible, you're probably not going to be paying $318 a month. You may pay like $200 or $100 a month. But if you pay it by outright like me, you're going to be paying close to $300-ish a month. Whereas finger sticks are cheaper. You have a meter, that's a one-time purchase. Usually a lancing device is a one-time purchase. And if you're like me and you don't change your lancets every day, you have a lifetime supply of lancets when you buy your meter. However, what the bugger and the killer here is test strips, especially if you test a lot. That's why, to me, the continuous glucose monitor is more beneficial because you basically get your blood sugar kind of tested every 5 minutes. You always, though, if you have a continuous glucose monitor like me, make sure you have test strips on hand, because at any time, your Dexcom, your Libre, your Guardian, your Eversense sensor could fail on you, and you need to know what your blood sugar is. It's important no matter what kind of diabetes you have, especially if you're type 1, where our blood sugars can fluctuate a lot depending on what's going on, because we do not produce adequate amounts of insulin to regulate blood sugar levels. So it's important that you have some of these along with the meter and some way to prick your finger to test your blood sugar. It's important. Depending on what kind of meter you have, your finger sticks, your test strips can vary from like $10 a vial all the way up to like $50 a vial, depending on what brand you use. I know the contour meters that I use is much more cheap than the Vario for whatever reason. And I get the same amount of accuracy. They both work great. I don't complain. I buy my test strips outright just because I cannot stand Optum RX. I already made a video about that. They sent me damaged medical goods when I was on multiple daily injections. They sent me needles that were bent and that were not delivering me the insulin I needed. And because I only finger stick about twice a day because I have a Dexcom G6, I only finger stick to see if the meter or the monitor is actually accurate, and like I would say 95% of the time it's within like 10 points, and I feel so confident using the Dexcom G6 to dose off of, and the fact that it mirrors my A1C, I feel really confident about that. But I buy mine outright, and they're really not that expensive compared to a lot of other ones. The freestyle meters can be more expensive. I know the Vario meters are more expensive, and then like the Reliance are even cheaper than the contour meters. It depends, but I'll leave a couple links down below where you can get decent test strips. I know Amazon sells the contour ones for not too bad a vial. I think they're like 15-ish a vial, 18-ish a vial. And for me, like one of these lasts me a month. So it's like I can order 3 of them and last me 3 months because I have a continuous glucose monitor. So it's like perfect. Fine, I'll make that purchase. But if you are using finger sticks regularly, I recommend investing in like some sort of savings card promotion or running them through the insurance to get them cheaper. But you can also, like I said, besides Amazon, there's a website I found called Valley Rain Medical that does sell fairly cheap test strips. They mainly sell test strips that are like 3 months from expiration, and as long as you're testing enough to use them before the test strips expire, perfect, you can use it. And I've used close to expired test strips and have not had issues with accuracy, holding them up against my continuous glucose monitor. But that's your main expense with finger sticks, but overall it's probably a lot cheaper for finger pricks, especially if you're not doing so many, to go that route. With the continuous glucose monitor, you do have to wear a device. Typically it's a wire that sits right below your skin into the interstitial fluid, and from there it transmits its readings every 5 minutes, sends the information to the transmitter, then the transmitter sends the information to your receiver to tell you what your blood sugar is and what direction you're headed. Whereas with finger pricks, you don't have to wear a device. It's kind of like being device free. All you need is a finger or an area like your palm of your hand to test on, the meter and the test strips. You don't have to physically wear anything on you. You just have to make sure you have something carried on you at all times. With a continuous glucose monitor, the main benefit is being able to see your whole picture of blood sugars. You know every 5 minutes where your blood sugar is and where it could be headed in the future. So you can see I went a little higher today after breakfast, but you can see I got it right back down. With the finger stick, I wouldn't have known that I was that high until maybe I tested 2 or 3 hours after, and I may have been high for a long time. And now I'm potentially doing damage to my body. I'm not able to get that high down quick, whatever the case may be, because a finger stick is only going to give you a single point. So today my blood sugar kind of went up to like 190-ish. Okay, and it was like 2.5 hours after I ate breakfast. It was kind of a heavier fat breakfast. If I was still on finger sticks, I would have tested my blood sugar this morning and it was 123. Fine and dandy. But if I didn't test 1.5 hours to 2 hours after my breakfast, I wouldn't have known that my blood sugar was 190. It may have continued to head up to 200, 220, 230. And then when I finally started not feeling good, or I thought, oh, I'm going to go eat lunch now, take a finger prick, oh shit, I'm at 230. You're only getting that single value. You're not getting what happened in between. Well, you could tell from a 123 to like a 230 or 190 or whatever that value is. You could tell you headed up, but you don't know how quickly you head up. You don't know when you headed up. You don't know how long you've been at that level without the continuous glucose monitor. So you're only going to get a single point with finger pricks. Kind of a con with the continuous glucose monitor is at first when you get it, you're going to feel overwhelmed with the amount of data you're going to use. You're going to be like checking every 5 minutes, and let me tell you, you get used to not checking it so much. The main times when I look at my continuous glucose monitor is when I'm about to do exercise. Am I at a decent level to like put a temp basal on, or if I'm a little higher when I do exercise, I'll often leave my basal run, and then it'll force my blood sugars to come down. I'll check my CGM right when I'm ready to eat so that I can input that data into my PDM. I'll check my CGM right before I'm ready to go to sleep. I'll check my CGM often an hour or a half hour, an hour, and 2 hours after I eat, 3 different times. So I'm only checking my CGM maybe 10 times a day. I'm not checking it every 5 minutes, which could get you kind of crazy and overwhelmed. But that's the beauty of the alarms and alerts too, is that you can kind of, you'll get notified when something goes out of whack. Finger pricks, in contrary, a finger prick can be less overwhelming, right? You're only going to look at one value and you're going to dose based upon that value. So it doesn't feel as overwhelming. You're only looking at one data point and you're making a decision from that one point. CGMs measure your blood glucose values through your interstitial fluid. It's not actually, the wire does not directly go into a vein or a blood vessel unless you accidentally put it there. I don't know if these things go deep enough to actually hit a true vein or a blood vessel per se. But you can hit capillaries when you do put them in, because capillaries are your little tiny itty bitty arteries or blood vessels that sit on the surface of your skin. That's what happens when you scratch yourself and a little bit of blood comes out. Those are just capillaries. They heal quick. They clot quick. Don't worry about it. But you're not taking measurements directly from blood. Whereas with the finger prick, you are taking a literal blood sugar sample from a tiny microscopic, or not microscopic, a tiny amount of blood, usually like half of a micro unit, which is extremely tiny. If you ever squeeze your finger, it's not that big of a drop. You don't even need that big of a drop for today's meters, which is absolutely phenomenal. I believe mine takes like 0.4 micro units or microliters. I know the older ones used to take a lot more, where you had to have a decent sized blood drop in order for it to get a decent reading. Another major benefit with a continuous glucose monitor is to see the speed and the direction in which your blood sugar is headed. I've talked about the directional arrows before, but if you see slight arrows headed up, that means your blood sugar is headed up kind of slowly, and not really a concern. If you're steady and stable and straight, your blood sugar doesn't seem to be wanting to go anywhere in the near future, or the monitor doesn't predict that your blood sugar is going to be headed anywhere in the near future. Slight arrows headed down are really nothing to worry about, but when you get them single arrows headed up or them double arrows headed up, that indicates that your blood sugar either is rising ultra rapidly or dropping ultra rapidly. And you can use that to kind of make a decent judgment for yourself and to know, hey, I might be approaching a pretty awful high blood sugar pretty soon, or a pretty awful low blood sugar pretty soon. And you don't get that with Fingersticks. You get a single number. So if, say, my continuous glucose monitor said I was 120 with a single arrow headed up, well, based upon what I've known from using the Dexcom, I'm probably going to be at 150 to 160 within a matter of 15, 20, 30 minutes. Whereas with the Fingerstick, I would see that 120. But I wouldn't know that I'm going to be at 160 in 30 minutes unless I physically test again in 30 minutes and go, uh-oh, I'm rising ultra rapidly. Let's dose again, a small dose of insulin to stop that arrow. Stuff like that. So that's what I talk about being bold with insulin. You really can't do that unless you have a continuous glucose monitor, because you can't make an appropriate judgment, because the way I be bold with insulin is to stop an arrow, okay? Stop a rapid rising arrow so that you can turn that 150 or 160 into not going into 200 or 230 or whatever the case may be. Now, between both continuous glucose monitors and finger pricks, there is a variance. When I was taught and trained in the Dexcom G6, when I finger prick, it should be within 10 to 15 points every single time, and you know that it is very, very close and accurate. I would say 90 to 95% of the time, my Dexcom G6 is spot on within those values. Oftentimes, less than 5 points, okay? Meters also have some variance. They can have anywhere from 10 to 15 up to 20 points variance. So if you test your blood sugar or look at your monitor and it says 150, well, your blood sugar could be anywhere from like 130, 140-ish to up to 160 or 170-ish, and that's okay. 20-point variances aren't that bad, but keep an eye out if you think your meter's not reading accurate or your CGM's not reading accurate. Confirm with a different meter. Test your blood sugar a couple times to get you a better picture of what's going on in the moment. With the continuous glucose monitor, you have different options. You can be like me and wear a Dexcom G6 continuous glucose monitor, which gives you alarms and alerts directly to your receiver to let you know, hey, when is your blood sugar hitting your low threshold? When is your blood sugar hitting your high threshold? I get alerts anytime my blood sugar goes above 140 milligrams per deciliter, and I get alerts anytime my blood sugar goes below 70 milligrams per deciliter, and you can adjust that for whatever you want. You can have a Libre, which is like a flash glucose monitor, which it does continuously measure your blood sugar, but you have to physically take your little receiver or your phone, put it over the Libre, and then look at your thing, and it'll give you your blood sugar and your direction. Guardian sensors are sensors that are like the Dexcom, but those are more equipped to sync with Medtronic pumps. I don't know a whole heck of a lot about them, but those are available to you also. And a newer one called the Eversense CGM, which are kind of new to the market, and maybe eventually what we're going to eventually go to is implantable CGM devices that go underneath your skin, or they do a little incision, they put them under your skin, and you wear a transmitter on the outside that you charge. And it's sent directly to your phone and gives you alarms and alerts. And it actually vibrates inside your body so that lets you know, hey, you're low, hey, you're high. And this implantable device can sit in your skin or wherever. They implant it for up to 90 days or 3 months, which is super cool. Versus like a Dexcom, a Libre, or a Guardian, you have a little wire. And you have to snap in a transmitter, and then you change this every 10, 15 days, 1 week, depending on what generation you own, to get your readings. And like for Fingersticks, like I mentioned previously, there are different types of blood sugar meters. I have been very familiar with the Vario family. I am very familiar with the Contour family, but there's also freestyle families. And there's also families that have to do with like the cheaper families, like the Walgreens version, the Walmart version, like the Rely On meters. Just check and make sure that they're accurate and that they work for you. Make sure it's something that you're comfortable with. I know insurance companies are very, very good at wanting to switch up different meters and stuff. Like I said, I don't have that issue because I choose to buy my continuous glucose monitors outright. I can buy whatever meter I want outright too, and I think it's easier and it works better for me to pay by the time that I need and what I need in the moment to keep my blood sugars going, keep myself accurate, keep everything going as good as possible. But I am very familiar with Vario meters and Contour meters, so I did a compare and contrast video on them. But if any of you have any questions for me about Vario meters or Contour meters, let me know. I'm willing to answer questions about them. I'm very familiar with both and how they both work. So yeah, and if any of you use other meters, share your experience down below, because it may help somebody else who is looking at choosing a different meter that might better suit their lifestyle for checking their blood sugar. With a continuous glucose monitor, particularly like the Dexcom G6, you get alarms and alerts. Treat by prediction, okay? You're going to treat by prediction to prevent highs or lows. For example, if I notice that my blood sugar is like 70 with a slight arrow headed down, I can treat and not let that blood sugar go really below 65-ish. You know, I don't have to wait until I start feeling low and then treat it. What's cool about the Dexcom G6 too is there's an extra alert, whereas if the monitor suspects or detects that your blood sugar is going to be at 55 milligrams per deciliter within 20 minutes or 15 minutes or 10 minutes, it will also do that alarm. So let's say it says I'm 70, but if I'm 70 with a straight arrow headed down, it will say urgent low, 55 milligrams per deciliter within 20 minutes, so that I know, hey, maybe I'll take a little extra or suspend my insulin a little longer, or you know, whatever the case may be, to try to get that blood sugar and prevent it from going dangerously low. Because when you start getting to 55 or below, you're getting urgently low, and you're to the point where anything could possibly happen. You could pass out, you could have a seizure, you could go into a coma, you could face some consequences, and then at that point your blood sugar hypoglycemia symptoms, if you do feel them, are going to be pretty severe. Another thing with continuous glucose monitors is that they're very good for people that don't have hypo or hyperglycemia awareness. As a matter of fact, as I've gotten into more of the routine management of managing diabetes, I am less likely to feel highs, and I'm much less likely to feel lows now. As a matter of fact, about a month and a half ago, I had a blood sugar. My monitor kept saying I was 55, and I'm going, my blood sugar's not 55. If I was 55, I'd feel low. I took a finger prick. My blood sugar was 56. And I rode low for like 15 minutes, and I didn't even feel any symptoms, you guys. I had no shakes, I had no headaches, I had no confusion, I had no weakness, jello in the knees, jello in the joints. I had no low blood sugar symptoms, no blurry vision, no nothing. And it's that peace of mind that if you don't have low blood sugar awareness, or even like if you don't have high blood sugar awareness, let's just say your blood sugar, you know, let's say you've been riding a little higher, your body kind of got used to the higher blood sugars, and now you all of a sudden you go to 300. You might not know you're 300 until you see the monitor showing you that directional. So it's so important what a continuous glucose monitor can do versus like a finger prick. If you have hypo or hyper unawareness, you really need to get one of these, and it's more of a necessity for you because you're not going to get that benefit with a meter. You're not going to be able to base just upon your body how you're feeling. And like I've said 1,000 times, A continuous glucose monitor is amazing. To me, if you don't have one, it's like managing type 1 diabetes with a blindfold on. You're only seeing little points in the road. You're not seeing the whole picture. You're not seeing what happened before, what happened now, what's going to happen in the future, okay? I wanted to emphasize that and make this point before I carry on any further. Able to treat before you get symptomatic, and that's what I love. I can treat highs before I start feeling crappy. I can treat lows before I start feeling shaky or weak or have confusion or whatever the case may be. It's such a peace of mind to go to bed at night and know, hey, my blood sugar is not going to drop. It's not going to rise. It's a peace of mind at night. If my blood sugar goes above 140, I can take a little itty bitty dose of insulin and wake up at like non-diabetic levels. Or if my blood sugar goes low in the middle of the night, that I can treat it, that I can take a juice box, drink it, go back to sleep and have that comfortability that, hey, you know, there's something that's always going to be watching my back. And my mom absolutely loves my Dexcom. She calls it a nice babysitter for me, which is kind of like, I was always embarrassed by that term, but now I'm like, I get why she calls it that, because it's like peace of mind for her. It's peace of mind for me that, like, you know, I'm not going to go to bed and die, you know, because my blood sugar went too low or too high. Whereas with a meter, you're probably going to end up checking. You're going to check before meals or whatever and before you exercise, but you're probably not going to check highs and lows unless you feel symptomatic. And if you don't feel high or low symptoms until you get really dangerously out of whack, you're causing damage. You're doing damage control. With a monitor like this, you're not doing damage control. You're doing control in real time and real measurements. And that's what I love. And this can wholeheartedly improve your A1C versus just this. Don't get me wrong. You can do this, but in order to get even the minimal effect of what this does, you have to prick your finger like 10 or 15 times a day. And that's what I was doing prior to getting my continuous glucose monitor. And now I'm only pricking like twice a day, or at most 3 or 4 times if I think this thing's acting up. So I love that I'm not doing damage control anymore. I love that I'm doing control in the moment, and that it helps my A1C so much, and I'm able to keep more stable blood sugars, more healthy blood sugars, prevent highs, prevent lows, have a peace of mind. It's such a beautiful thing. And you know, when I just had this, if I saw a blood sugar of like 85, you know, like I after I started realizing I want normal blood sugars, I would go to sleep at an 85, but I'd probably wake up every 2 hours and check my blood sugar to make sure it wasn't going high, low, or whacking all over the place, because, you know, your basal doses could be off or whatever the case may be. Whereas with this, if my blood sugar says 85 and stable, I'm going to go right to bed, because my blood sugar isn't going to go anywhere, or it's not predicted to go anywhere in the future. Whereas if I saw 85 with a slight arrow headed down before I go to sleep, I might want to eat, you know, like some peanut butter or a couple crackers. Nothing that'll drive my blood sugar high, but something that'll just stop that arrow. And I can coast all night between 70s, 80s, 90s. You know, and it's so beautiful to know that I can wake up at non-diabetic levels, and I can maintain pretty damn near non-diabetic levels with this monitor. It's such an amazing thing, and wholeheartedly, they both have their benefits. They both have their cons, but wholeheartedly, I would never regret investing in a continuous glucose monitor, and I will always have a continuous glucose monitor no matter how hard life gets, because this to me is saving my life. This to me is a game changer. This to me is helping me keep normal blood sugar levels so I'm not damaging my body. Okay, low blood sugar is damaged too, just as much as highs, and I'm not damaging my body with having this on me and being able to get great readings and being able to treat what's going on now instead of waiting till something bad happens. So if you can invest in a continuous glucose monitor, go ahead. You won't regret it. There's all different kinds. I love my Dexcom G6, won't go back. So happy that I really don't have to finger stick if I don't want to, but I have that peace of mind knowing that I have both. And I hope in the future that insurance companies see this as a necessity, unlike mine saying it's a luxury where I have to buy outright, whereas they see this more as a necessity, which I can get because it's newer. But I hope insurance companies eventually, especially here in America, will recognize that this is going to be the new standard for measuring blood sugars, and diabetics, particularly type 1s and even eventually type 2s and pre-diabetics, so that people can monitor their blood sugars for their lifestyle and keep the blood sugars where they want for their lifestyle, so that they're not going to be risking complications and such. So I'm hoping as we go forward that something like this is going to become the standard of care, and we're going to say bye-bye to blood sugar meters. So anyways, if you enjoyed this compare and contrast video, give it a big thumbs up. Feel free to hit that subscribe button down below. I post videos every single week about diabetes plus more. Stay tuned for Sunday's video. You're going to absolutely love what kind of surprise I have to celebrate 300 subscribers. Let me know down below what you want me to do to celebrate 400 subscribers. I'm going to try not to celebrate it right when I'm ready to turn 500 because I feel like, I don't know, I feel like I'm kind of lagging behind. So I'm going to try to do a celebration type video between 400 and 500 subscribers, like at 450-ish. So that I'm not lagging myself behind. So if you have any suggestions for me of what you want me to do to celebrate, let me know. I'm pretty much open to any ideas. It doesn't have to be related to diabetes. You want to see my room, you want to see my house, I don't know, random stuff. You want to stare into my eyes, you want me to go live, I don't know. Give me suggestions. I have a few that I'm trying to figure out. But if you have any particular suggestions for me, go ahead. For 100 subscribers, I did share my type 1 diabetes diagnosis story. For 200 subscribers, I did a Q&A. For 300 subscribers, you will find out what that is on Sunday. So I have something very special coming up for you guys. So until tomorrow for another video, take care, God bless, be kind, spread positivity, and be thankful. Bye.